Let me tell you all about the tragic story of September 11th, 2018. Just like how the American government was starting to ease up on security, the DeviantArt ranting community was starting to ease up on having a brain in their heads. I'm sure you're all aware of the infamous Pentagate by now, in which two slimy little fucks, Pentagrid and Stories, took advantage of this breach by starting false pedophile accusations against someone named Spocter Fury solely because they had a grudge with him, consequently getting the whole DA ranting community to spread these lies. I'm also sure you recall that this scandal was resolved once Ponder Sprocket came in vigilante style. What you probably don't know, however, is that the effects of Pentagate are still felt to this day. Even after Ponder called everyone out, there were still some who could be called hostile. Mostly bronies though. One of those people being Fran, who made a shitty apology video for her shitty contributions. The apology was so shitty that it spawned two twin towers. The first being of Hiten Mitsuru, who did a video addressing Fran's bullshit very poorly, and the second being of NextGWSMan, who did a video towards the first tower. These two towers always seem to be at war with each other. Well, you know what? I think it's time I ended the war by destroying both sides! This is what the commentary community gets for deporting me! Everyone should have expected this from me! For fuck's sake, my birth date is literally December 7th! This is it!
So I posted the thumbnail for the video the night before the commentary, something I try to do regularly, something I did with this video. Not too long afterwards, I get DMs from someone. When I wake up, your video has mysteriously disappeared.
Hold up. What is this? If I didn't know any better, I'd assume the entire premise of this video was discussing shit from private messages and group conversations. Hiten, did you not attend lecture when Professor Anyone advised against leaking personal discussions like this? I will confess there are select circumstances to bust private stuff wide open, but I said select circumstances. Considering only 1 out of the 5 times in which you brought up things that Fran said was from a public avenue, you're really playing with fire here. Let me just be real, if you in the audience feel primed for this to get dodgy, I know the feeling. I felt like that when I first saw this. And spoilers, but the following is the only DM or group message here with an obscured name, so other people are good to get their conversations leaked in full, but this user got a little privacy protection? Wait, I noticed something fishy about this whole deal. Let's compare this to a screenshot of Twitter DMs just like this from a sports website. Apparently this entails a casual conversation sample from a sportscaster, I believe? Anyways, what's the difference between these two? Well, the other person's name and the icon of the other profile are missing. They aren't even marked over, they're just gone. What if this entire DM was staged? Think about it. The writing styles and readability are almost the exact same from Hiten and the unknown person. And think about how it's framed in the video. The DM happens and then shockingly the video gets removed when Hiten looks away. It's the perfect setup to claim cowardice on Fran's behalf.
Well, ain't that a lot to cover. Let's start backwards. Those familiar with my channel may notice I've used a similar tactic to what Gwis is using here during a scandal revolving around Butch Hartman. Now, the reason why I employed said tactic is because Butch throughout that scandal was not explaining anything behind the Kickstarter he was running, and still hasn't explained much to this day, and with there being a good amount of sketchiness surrounding the whole project, well, no wonder I and many others started making our own theories, especially considering $250,000 was at stake. So let's explain why the same tactic doesn't work as well in this situation. For one, Gwis' conspiracy theory is used superficially at best. Why? Well, remember when Gwis said that there was one public conversation that Hiten used? The public conversation in question had Fran state, word for word, the apology was fine, but that clearly wasn't good enough for people, so why keep it up? How is that important, you may be asking? Well, let's play the end of Gwis' interjection for a second.
However, the fact that I could even propose this conspiracy theory demonstrates something important. At best, you're showing double standards concerning the privacy of direct messages and group conversations later in this video. At worst, you omitted details to the point where it looks like you faked something to up the drama value. Come on, I may be late to this drama, but I was not born yesterday. You can see why this looks a little fishy.
I'm gonna cover both bases. For the first possibility, the only reason Hiten obscured the name here is because the name wasn't crucial or relevant to the credibility of the messages themselves. Don't believe me? Well, the only other DMs that Hiten put in her collection of screenshots were the private DMs with Junkie, which, well, were Junkie's DMs with the subject herself, not Heaton's DMs with someone related to the subject. At that point, the name is relevant because that's who gave Hiten the screenshots, and obscuring Junkie's name would look way more fishy than what you're taking out of this situation. As for the second possibility, I would hardly call what Hiten did an overdramatization by your logic. Sure, you could say that Hiten at this point framed everything weirdly, as if Fran was trying to hide this side of her, but you said that Hiten omitted enough details so she could overdramatize Fran showing her cowardice. which is bullshit because Fran did show her cowardice. Publicly. Now, I say at this point in regards to Hiten because the point Gwis makes after this interjection where he tells Hiten that she's assuming Fran deleted their video due to her, even though all Hiten had to go off of was her conspiracy theory, served as a much better indicator to over-dramatization, even if it wasn't an indicator for what was specifically supposed to be indicated. Seriously, Hiten, you could have just showed the public comments leaked in your Google Docs and you would have better gotten the point across of Fran being a damage-controlling bitch without this delusion of grandeur bullshit. However, Gwis, bringing up all the garbage that you did in this interjection hardly leaves an impact, if not any. My tangent ain't over yet, though. The second reason why the tactic used here doesn't work is because Gwis's conspiracy theory on its own is weak. Like, let's look at the pieces Gwis brought together here. They both had the same writing style. Gwis, you know what other screenshots of DMs have the same writing style? The ones you showed and said were legitimate. She instantly related the DMs to Fran. This must be an inside job.
And for that matter, look at this! You see how quickly she assumed someone talking to her like this involved Fran? While this could be explained by Hiten noticing a simple pattern and being onto something after the video was taken down.
You know, do I even have to say anymore? Look at this. When Gwis brings up Hiten booping out the names in the DMs, Gwis goes on to explain how that basis is also flimsy as fuck.
While this could also be used for hoaxing, it could also just be a better way of obscuring details without a big old blob on the screen.
And while the motivation Gwis proposes for his theory would make sense, nothing of significance really backs up the possibility of Hiten doing something like it, thus leaving Gwis's whole spiel as a half-assed attempt to make things look shady when, if anything, it's more of a poorly handled overreaction. Still not over. I must ask what makes Hiten's use of these private messages unacceptable compared to the select circumstances in which blowing out private messages to the public would be warranted. I know one example you may have been thinking of, and I've definitely been thinking of, is when Ponder Sprocket released private messages to showcase Pentagrin and Stories being the lying, manipulative scumbags they are. However, even Ponder herself is at a gray area with this situation Hiten is in, as it could be argued that because Fran's Discord server is public, her whole thing about nearly having a panic attack because of Ponder's video would have been public manners, thus making it all the more incriminating considering when Fran is behind 800 people's backs, she's all, haha, JK. This is a valid counter-argument that you don't address, so it's not like any opposition to what you said was 100% infallible off the get-go. Overall, TLDR to wrap this all up, Hiten, your conspiracy may be true, but at the end of the day, it's a conspiracy and not anything concrete like you make it out to be here. You are treating this more like a feud between someone instead of said someone not being able to handle backlash in general. Gwis, most of your points made here fall apart due to intellectual dishonesty for the sake of concocting a very weak conspiracy, and a lack of elaboration to flesh out your point completely. I will say I'll get to addressing Ponder's hypothetical counter-argument later in the video as a point against Hiten, but that's really what you should have done, Gwis. Okay? Tangent over.
Okay, so now my video's out, and clearly you didn't appreciate it. That being said, I wish you would have come to me directly about it instead of crying to Ponder about her comment. Now, I'm assuming it's because Ponder is the destructive force that she is, but sloppy. Now you have no excuse for sneaking around my salty ass when you could have just confronted me directly.
Hiten, what in the fuck? You're going on about how Fran didn't directly talk to you in concerns for a comment Ponder made on your video? Alright, let's be fair and take the time to read Ponder's comment for a second. I've said it before, but I'll say it again. That's my impression of Ponder. Fran made, in my opinion, the worst of the stay away from Spoctor Theory videos that I saw. I don't know how she can make an apology and still have it be the worst, but I'm not entirely surprised either. Okay, with that out of the way, let's ask ourselves one important thing. Is Ponder's comment directly related to your video? No. No, it's not, Hiten, okay? Saying that Fran was salty over Ponder's comment alone makes me wonder why you'd have to have some involvement in the conversation other than because the comment was on your video. As far as I know, Fran could have just been upset about how Ponder said she made the worst video of this entire drama, which would have nothing to do with what you said in your video. But I don't know. You not completely confiding in what the conversation between Ponder and Fran entailed makes everything you were going for here fall flat simply because there's a very strong possibility you didn't clear up. That Fran had no reason to talk to you. That is, unless Fran talked about how she didn't appreciate your video since you say she didn't before you actually went to the situation with Ponder. If so, you sure as hell leave no correlation to the two instances being connected. But what does Gwis have to say about all of this?
Actually, perhaps I shouldn't be too mad about this. From what I understand, this seemed to be involving a situation where Fran talks some shit in Heten's absence, or something like that. So maybe I could give this a pass. And then never saw his forgiving attitude become a mistake in 3, 2...
You've gotta be fucking kidding me. So, here's the other thing about Hiten's point. We don't know the specific type of platform in which the happening described took place. Fran could have made a reply to Ponder's public comment only to delete it in the near future. Fran could have been crying to Ponder in a Discord server that Hiten was also a part of. Fran could have been talking shit about her in a public Discord that Hiten was not in. Or, most importantly, this could have been yet another instance of Hiten leaking DMs. Yet you say you can maybe let this slide, not because the source is undefined, but because Hiten's reasoning was all, "Say that to my face, homeboy!" So what? He didn't have the same thoughts as you. What is this, a hive mind? What's the big deal? The big deal is that when this build up to a greater point pays off, we get this.
So now Ponder's video is out, and I see you in your Discord.
Never mind then, because I don't know about you, but you know what doesn't make me feel like I could settle something directly with a respectable opponent a la casual discourse? Bringing up more confidential conversations and making me feel unsafe to even DM with certain people.
Yes, the reason Gwiss's forgiving attitude faded away is because Hiten made Fran feel unsafe. Even though she didn't, because the screenshot Hiten showed was from the same public Discord server Ponder mentioned in her hypothetical counter-argument. However, now I have to propose this question. What if Hiten already did that? Would it still be fine because of Heten's motivation? These are all what-ifs that don't prove anything. Au contraire. As a monkey once said, the fact that I can even propose these what-ifs demonstrates something important. That something important being how this blurs Gwiss's standards to quite a substantial amount, which is something that, as I said towards what I quoted before, wouldn't usually leave much of an impact. However, actually, never mind.
Oh my goodness, why does this matter?
Shh, it's a surprise, okay? Let's just tackle the rest of this point and we'll all be good.
And Hiten, don't even tell me that you weren't framing your jab like that. I've seen coyotes with less stalk and chase behaviors than you creeping on Fran. And yes, this behavior of yours may have been after you witnessed the things you discussed in this video. But regardless, this creepy behavior of yours retroactively destroys your angle of, you could have totally brought this up to me. Seeing how you turned out now, I can totally understand her finding that direct communication with you would be a losing proposition. And I mean a less deserved L compared to circulating a bogus sexual allegation and regretting it.
Oh my goodness!
You see, what I find astonishing is that I would assume you acknowledge that this whole thing was a jab at how Fran would get pissy if you didn't talk to her directly about shit. I mean, you could hear in Heaton's inflection that she was mocking something Fran specifically said. Yet, if my assumption is correct, you still decided it was a good idea to bring all of these reasons for Fran to not contact Hiten, as if that doesn't help Heaton's point? Like, let me set the record straight. Fran also endorsed private messages being spread to ruin a good man's reputation until she was confronted, in which she then tried to do the act of sorry not sorry by saying, well, I have a good excuse. That is Heaton's viewpoint. Your viewpoint is that Hiten shouldn't be trusted because she leaked DMs while claiming she had a good excuse. Let's argue with these viewpoints in mind. Heaton's main point of this jab is clear as day. Fran is a hypocrite, and that's funny. Hiten wasn't seriously requesting for Fran to talk to her directly, and after making this video, she probably didn't expect it either, but I'm sure anyone who listened to what I played of Heaton's video caught on to this by now. More on Gwiss though. You saying that Fran had good foresight because of the merit of your viewpoint, if anything, just further shows the hypocrisy of Fran way more than Hiten intended, because from what Hiten provided and from what you apparently agree with thanks to that last sentence of saying Fran circulated bogus sexual allegations, she would be just as bad. No, I'm not saying you can't criticize the way Hiten went about her jab, I'm saying you weren't even on the dartboard of that shit.
I love the idea that you're not nearly as bad as the others who perpetuated the drama, yet here you are, playing victim like Penegrin did. Cry me a fucking river and then dunk your head in it. Maybe the crocodile tears will wash off. I got commentated on too. I had an actual panic attack because I have a diagnosed medical disorder.
What? I'm gonna give you 6 seconds to elaborate on this. I'm gonna give you the benefit of the doubt and let you explain yourself to show that this isn't what I think it is.
I was shaking through watching that fucking video, and you know what? I took Luxter's criticism. You have
Not good enough. So I decided to look something up since I thought it was fishy how you wrote off a teenager of all people having an emotional outburst, and look what I found. A panic attack happens because of heightened anxiety. Anyone can have a panic attack, but this is also a hallmark symptom of panic disorder. It can lead to rapid heartbeat, rapid breathing, sweating, shaking, and other symptoms. In people who do not have an anxiety disorder, a panic attack can happen if an event triggers anxiety. How interesting. Thank you, registered nurse Rachel Null. Now, I could argue how sheer regret here would make some anxiety, since we've got a previously and frankly stubborn teenager who spread someone else's heinous lies and got told for it. But then again, I could be reading the situation incorrectly, since I did have to pick up the pieces a lot for context. But what I can say for certain is your line of reasoning is straight up toxic bullshit in terms of psychology.
Here we go. So, one fundamental flaw that I've been holding back on pointing out, but I feel now's the best time to bring it up, is that the structure of this commentary is crap. No fancy adjectives or anything, just straight up crap. What I'm typically finding is you play a specific statement from Hiten, make this entire point about such a small part of a picture, then play the rest of a point which includes an important part of the picture, and decide to go like, fine, let's attribute that as well. For example, your first point and second point could have been easily meshed together into an overall better point had you played the entirety of what Hiten was saying, but points I covered beforehand felt like they were written in two different planes of existence, and then there's this, which turns what would otherwise be a rather amateur progression of analysis into a method that, and I'm just gonna assume this was entirely subconscious, allowed you to get away with suspending certain parts which would be detrimental to whatever you were saying at the time so you can make what you were saying at the time look more attractive and intelligible. Don't believe me? When a similar point gets brought up again in Hiten's video after you get caught up by a huge blunder that we'll be talking about in a bit, you literally blurt out,
This is the part of scripting where I forget I previously brought up something, like occasional panic attacks without full disorders, see my subject mention something flawed about it a second time, remember that I already disputed it after half a second, and now sit here frustrated. Oh god, I did not miss this part of commentating.
Combine that and everything else, and I end up asking myself if this is a first draft or whatnot. Cause, spoiler alert, this entire tirade you go on about how Hiten is saying only people diagnosed by a doctor can get panic attacks is bullshit because Hiten never said that. Hiten said that's how she knew she had one. But in terms of Fran, she called bullshit because Fran was saying, oh no, I'm fine, while simultaneously claiming an intense feeling.
Oh really? Then why don't you play that segment, commentator?
Whoa now, hold up, I'm already getting way ahead of myself. Let's backtrack a tad so we can cover another example of poor structuring that's just as noteworthy.
You have no fucking excuse to hide behind a shield of I'm having an anxiety attack when you committed a fucking crime, ruined a peer's reputation, and then tried to walk it halfway back. Because you're not sorry, are you? According to your own words out of your own dong slopper, you stand by everything you said in that video, but removed it for damage control. Do you know what that means? It means you're still fair game, and it means that until you actually apologize, you're just as guilty as Pentagrin in stories. You're the same festering pond scum at the top of the abandoned well that this drama has turned into.
Oh, hold up now. From what I've heard here, Fran's big misdeed was spreading the Spoctor fucked up spiel, and then saying how it was misinformation, albeit through a highly flawed apology, right? You're comparing that to Pentagrin and stories? Weren't they the two people that fabricated evidence against Spoctor and intentionally made the whole shitstorm up? Don't get me wrong, spreading a smear campaign when Fran didn't seem to know better, or know better on how to handle the situation, is still pretty bad. No doubt she fucked up hard. But you know what equating that behavior to creating said smear campaign would be? It would be the same breed of sensationalistic fervor that makes false sexual allegations such a problem to begin with. You had to actually sit here and think, no, of course, the two situations aren't quite on the same level, I'm good at justice. And somehow Fran is the only girl with a faulty moral compass.
See, what gets me about this one is that I kind of agree. Heaton's use of Pentagrin and stories as comparison points were pretty shallow. That's the thing though. They're shallow, but you're making it out as if Hiten has a skewed sense of morality when, just in case anyone didn't keep this in the back of their minds, Hiten made the comparison solely on the fact that Fran was playing victim like Pentagrin, and that just turns what could have been an agreeable opposition from Gwus into a reprehensible feat, because even if the foundation of your point is strong, and it is strong, the structure itself matters just as much. And your structure is that of a dildo built with very sturdy building blocks. And with that note, there may be a small dose of tragedy afoot. That maybe this commentary could have been good if only Gwus committed to a couple more rewrites and reorganizations. Moving forward, we have the big blunder I mentioned earlier. Basically, Detective Gwus pressed X to doubt the name's junkie giving Hiten permission to use screenshots of a private conversation between him and Fran. Now, Gwus was wrong, as Junkie actually did give her permission, and Gwus admitted to this being the case in the follow-up addressing this whole thing. So, you may be asking, why am I dedicating any amount of time to a point that Gwus had already admitted being faulty? Play the clip!
Well, the truth is, I actually did consult Junkie about this. I know, I didn't want to tell you that either. He didn't want more drama, so I didn't bring it up in the prior video. The thing is that I asked him if he did get permission from Hiten to show the DMs and all. I gave him a yes or no question, he gave me a vague answer about it, and I interpreted it as a no. So I then asked if I could use this information for the video, and, well, once again, he didn't like the idea of me going ahead with that. So I told him I'd proceed with the video using sheer doubt, or deduction, as I called it, and that people wouldn't know I got his testimony. As you can imagine, I'm not happy that I have to go back on my word. But anyways, I made the video and did all of that. I basically tried to replicate what I figured out about Junkie from his PMs, and I did so by using previous public circumstances. I thought later he'd actually be able to come out and say, oh no, I didn't get the permission and all, and it would have been clever. And that's when Lexter's comment got me realizing it was time my claims got backed up.
This is a trap that so many commentators fall into at some point, even myself at times, and it can always occur unintentionally too, when they're covering a video and thinking to themselves,
this is bad.
but how can I make it worse? And instead of contemplating a different argument or perspective to keep the video fresh, they concoct this entire plan just so they can build up to it and make it a high point or even the climax of their video. Here's my gripe with this. Doing these tactics means you're sacrificing a more neutral viewpoint solely so you can bask in being right when all is said and done. Essentially, you get a pass to reach for whatever nooks and crannies you can, all until you reach that sweet victory. And you know what that means. It means you better win. Because if you don't win, you lose. And guess what, Gwus? You lost. And what sucks about losing is that it means this entire blunder wasn't just a debate gone awry. It was meaningless. Not only was it a meaningless loss, but it was one that Junkie even advised for you to not go through with, which I guess you interpreted as revealing the information subtly, cause that's not shady, or stupid, or both. To really hammer this in, let's compare MTR, who I hope is doing well, but if not, here's a virtual hug in the middle of a commentary. MTR did a one-shot on Hiten, and while I'll admit it was fairly flawed, I wouldn't digress that MTR didn't have anything to what he was saying. Don't do videos out of spite. And he didn't appear as a Saturday morning villain in order to state such. At worst, I'd say his video was mediocre, but not as worthless as your scheme being foiled. However, I will admit to a silver lining being present, as I can't entirely blame Gwus for his failure.
You mean to tell me that he pulled an R Nice Guys 180 and allowed you to just link PMs in a public video?
Yup. I think at this point Junkie knows that he shouldn't have given Hiten permission to use those screenshots. I'm sure he also knows that he probably should have given a more concise answer to Gwus, especially when Gwus started to talk about how he was going to act in a view of doubt throughout his questionings. So let's move on to Hiten and look over the problems she held with these DMs. A. She's annoyed that Fran's only concerned about her reputation and not Spoctor's. No fucking shit, Fran would be talking about the state of her reputation during a conversation that started from someone being concerned for her. And it's not like she completely disregarded Spoctor's reputation in these DMs too. She was just very, 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 very ignorant about his state, but that doesn't equate to a disregard. B. Actually, I'll let Hiten herself offer this one.
She said, "Oh no, I'm fine." So let's add faking an anxiety disorder to the list of shit Fran is guilty of.
By the way, point proven. Double, by the way, this is where Ponder's counter-argument comes into play. Triple, by the way, Gwus's qualms with what Hiten offered ain't safe here either. Catch this.
But you know what? I'm not even close to done with this point. Let's say that an anxiety-driven panic attack could have been considered a disorder somehow, and she self-diagnosed for it. You're not assuming her episode didn't subside after a moment or anything? If these two messages happened in the same day, look, we've got an hour-and-a-half difference between them. Or, better yet, you think the anxiety is the bullshit, and not the stubborn young person trying not to show weakness? Oh wait, I remember. Benefit of the doubt is for people that you don't have unrestrained emotions towards. Good lord.
Got that? Good. Cause now I want to read both the public and private Discord messages in front of us. Stay with me, people. My anxiety is too terrible, and I literally cannot watch it because I feel like I'm gonna have a panic attack. That was public, here's private. I'm not freaking out, I just can't watch the video. The thing is that I don't see a problem with my apology. Hiten, where's the contradiction? Fran never said she was actually having a panic attack, just that she felt like she was about to have one. Of course she'd be fine in that instance because she hadn't watched the video. If she did watch, or was even planning to watch the video, maybe then this "I'm fine" statement would be rather egregious. But that wasn't the case, and you saying she's faking an anxiety disorder because of its poorly built foundation is the actual psychological toxicity being spread here. But what about them saying their reputation will be— what about it? Read her announcement again. The panic attack being a possibility was only mentioned when Ponder's video was brought up. That's it. Meanwhile, Gwus is chasing butterflies because that entire rebuttal was handed to him on a silver platter, yet he opted for the point of, well, maybe the panic attack could have subsided. Really? Say for a second that the existence of Ponder's video did give Fran a panic attack on its own. I'm fine. Except I'm not. What's wrong with me? Yeah, clearly the panic attack had subsided by then. Oh, and clearly she's not trying to show weakness either. Clearly, that's why she said she could potentially have a panic attack to begin with. She's clearly pretending that she's indestructible. What I'm trying to get at here is that you're all stupid, though one is more stupid than the others. Yes, now's when the structure of this commentary goes from crap to anally fucked. Fancy adjective territory commence!
Hey, you know, while we're here, let's drag out this other thing she said to Junkie. My reputation is fine. Because that's what this is about, right? Your reputation, not the innocent boy that's still receiving comments about him sexually assaulting people. Not the same kid who was fucking doxxed because of the shit you pulled, and not the person who—
Oh ho ho, you're not getting away with that. You know that I almost didn't think about this detail at first, and I nearly skipped it? Well, guess what? I thought that sounded a little too inflammatory to be true, so I searched around for an acquaintance on Discord that was well-versed in Spoctor-related drama. I even had to go through multiple accounts of this to find the most reliable explanation. And don't worry, I won't disclose the identities of my informants, because I think Hiten has already done that enough. The most reliable account I had actually did recall an incident where Spoctor was almost doxxed following the false claims. Almost, however, as in a sock puppet account on Twitter gave personal details before it was reported and the information didn't spread. Where this gets interesting is that apparently nobody knows who the perp actually is. There may have been one suspect involved, but the name of that suspect was not revealed. Now, maybe I'm just throwing darts in the dark here, but I'm pretty fucking certain I would know if Fran was actually involved with that incident, based on what I was told. But I'll tell you what I didn't need a second opinion on, knowing how you got away with outright lying about Fran. I know you tried to sneak that by thanks to your just as bad as Penna stories deal.
And not the person that's going to have to follow this for the rest of the foreseeable future, if not forever, because of what you contributed to.
Oh my fucking goodness!
Alright, everyone may have gathered the obvious fact that Hiten wasn't saying that Fran was the one who doxed Spoctor to begin with. Hiten was saying that Fran contributed to endangering Spoctor big time, but not that she was the perp herself. However, here's what's baffling. I was able to gather this because, as the direct meaning states, the shit Fran pulled was what Fran contributed to. And Gwus, you straight up played the clip that would have cleared all of this up when you were at the heart of your complaint. So, right off the bat, we're in anally fucked territory. Not only that, but this is why I really don't want to assume you were doing this mishmash consciously. I would think some people in my audience may have started considering that assumption, yet with stuff like this, there's no other explanation I can think of except for sheer incompetence. It doesn't end here, however. Instead of continuing that typical formula of, fine, we'll attribute that now, Gwus decides, with his warped interpretation of Heaton's words, to relate it to a previous point of Hiten saying Fran was just as bad as Pentagrin when that has fucking nothing to do with Heaton's viewpoint on this doxing situation. Seriously, if any of you can go back and remember what I said about Heaton's comparison, please tell me if you recall one moment when that was tied to this. Likewise, if any of you are starting to realize how much of a jumbled mess Gwus's commentary is becoming once you deconstruct it, welcome to my suffering! You would not believe what I had to go through in order to make some sense out of this madness that Gwus displayed for us. And the worst part? All of this is small beans compared to what's coming up. In fact, we're at the end of the video. There's still like 6 minutes left.
The video script of mine was written shortly after a second offense was performed by the accused. It pains me to announce the sentence as, up to recently I considered the accused a friend and upstanding commentator. But as some of you may presume, the penalty for this transgression is being told off. Know that I am no more adjudicator than I am a servant to the well-being of us all. Let tonight's video serve as a reminder to our community that we must adhere to the formalities and respects that stabilize our disputes, lest we fall out like the ranters. I was your friend, and what do you start acting like 2.5 weeks after we featured in our co-op? A downright dubious, double-dealing, drama-prone, diatribe-fueled despot waiting to get dunked. Or better yet, a confrontational, confidentiality-breaching, conundrum-like corn on the foot of the commentary community. And I haven't even dropped the big surprise. Remember when I said she had a second offense of breaching confidentiality before I started scripting? Did you assume I meant Junkie was the second and Fran was the first offense? No, I lumped that whole video as a first offense. I was talking about this. Tell me, Hiten, where exactly did you hear Ryan say that insult about you? And since you've shown how much you like to go for he said, she said bullshit through this, I'll tell you right now that I'm not just doing this because of him. This is pure karma, because I knew I had to step in when I saw you pulling this kind of thing on not one occasion, but on multiple occasions. I knew it wasn't just me getting uncomfortable at that point. That's also why I didn't believe you about the Junkie claim, and it's why I never consulted you about this before now, Hiten. You think I could trust you with direct messages and private conversation of any kind after this? Fool me once, shame on you. Fool me twice, shame on me. And that's it, Hiten. Because of how you've presented yourself as a commentator, and even as a person, our future cooperation is through. I don't know where this will leave our recent co-op. You could delete it as you please, or leave it as a timepiece for better days. Either way, it's in your hands, and I really don't care anymore.
We're at the end of the video. What I just showed was an assortment of footage that was sprinkled throughout Gwus's video. Said footage ultimately culminates into the disgusting truth behind this commentary. See, despite what the disclaimer put at the beginning of his commentary says, Gwus was not worried about providing legitimate criticism to Hiten. Gwus was only concerned about one thing: vengeance. In particular, Gwus wanted to show how good he was at justice. And that just grinds my gears on multiple levels. Gwus, I understand if you don't want to be friends with Hiten anymore. I understand if you feel as if you can no longer trust her. What I have a problem with is you announcing your disassociation with her, not so you could clarify your conclusion, but so you can morally grandstand for the sake of sending a message to the commentary community? As if I'm supposed to feel anything on that? I'm more so wondering if your friendship with her even meant anything. Spoctor Theory, the fucking victim, tried to settle former disputes with someone who helped contribute to assassinating his character, not shitting all over her just because she's untrustworthy, and managed to be as respectful as he could even if he didn't need to be. Fran actually apologized as a result. That's some good morale from its overall situation. Gwus sure as hell didn't follow it, but then again, he practically admits to not being as well versed with this drama. Huh, suddenly moral grandstanding looks as if it's equivalent to acting like a fucking child. No wonder it's a fallacy. My god, I haven't even gotten to the biggest problem with everything displayed in this 24-minute train wreck. Well, no use in delaying it any further. My biggest problem with this commentary is how Gwus goes on and on about the civility of the commentary community being broken, and how he's gonna mend for it, how he's gonna show us, or tell us, what true commentating really is. But he doesn't. Quite the opposite in reality. He makes things worse. In the portion of his video hinting at affairs with Junkie alone, he goes after Hiten for not getting Junkie's good graces, does not get Junkie's good graces himself, says that Hiten isn't giving Fran benefit of the doubt, built up to the Junkie reveal through crackpot conspiracy theories, had a problem with Hiten basing her video on private messages and group combos, bases a very important point on private messages with Junkie. Yeah, I said that was a big blunder for a reason. It's not just hypocrisy though, it's contradictions too. Remember tangent number 5836, aka the one where I went on about how Gwus's standards were blurred when he analyzed Hiten's motivations for leaking DMs, being to give Fran shit for talking behind her back? Well, going back to the second offense with Ryan.
But you know where I remember you getting that info? I remember about a person that was friends with both of you mentioned exactly what Mills Kohai had said about you in a separate Discord room. And you, in all your wisdom, decided to take that dispute to Twitter in response to an otherwise innocuous status update.
That is literally the same motivation. So this has gone far past the point of blurred standards, which is what the point's inherent value held. YouTube dude, that's only a small part of the video and you're comparing it to a big part of the video. It's not like he actually meant it. At this point, I wouldn't know if he actually meant it. Cause you wanna hear why all of this matters anyways? It's because if you really wanted Hiten to feel karma Gwus, then honestly, you should have gave her something to feel karma over. Ignore my entire common sense approach for a second. Ignore my entire commentary thus far. How is anyone supposed to take this seriously once they examine this video, which is supposed to build off of your character and show how based you are, only to find that you sunk just as low as Hiten? Yes, Hiten shouldn't have done that shit to Ryan. Yes, Hiten was out of line with that tweet. Yes, Hiten may have been out of line with this video, but just because she's playing with fire doesn't mean you have to fight with it. But you did fight with fire, didn't you? And that's why this video was doomed from the start. No matter how many points you made that was near the verge of something decent, none of them would take back the self-destroying spite being rooted in this commentary's core. But before I completely shut the door on Gwus, I want to put Hiten with him, because she's had her fair share of coverage here too. You wanna know why Spoctor was trying to be respectful to Fran Hiten? To show he wasn't a douchebag or an egomaniac.
I was too under his radar because I wasn't popular. He even admitted to me in a call once that he never watched any of my videos despite being subbed to me. Well, because your videos don't interest me. I'm not a big fan of watching reviews, believe it or not. I prefer watching something that's a lot more entertaining. It's not because I don't dislike you, and it's not because I hate you. I'm just subbed to you because you're my friend, I want to support you, but I don't want to waste my time watching something I'm not going to have any positive value from. It's not that your content's bad, it's just not my thing.
It's actually so sad. Like, Spoctor must have some deep-rooted personal issues or something, and he feels the need to treat others like this.
I must have some deep-rooted personal issues. Gosh, Fran, you don't fucking know me, dude. Seriously. Dude, please, get off a high horse. Please, man. Oh my god. I don't treat others like anything, Fran. I try to be respectful, and it's really hard right now to try to be respectful.
Yeah, newsflash, when you started going on about shit like this...
You walked all over a good guy's reputation because, God forbid, someone who works harder than you, makes better content than you, and is more popular than you, had the audacity to let you know it.
That's not helping Spoctor's case, that's not helping your case, that's not helping anyone's case. Fuck, the only difference between you and Gwus is that instead of making yourself alone come across as a jackass, you come across as someone who lets their anger get the better of them, while giving off a bad first impression to any newcomer trying to understand this drama. Even if they can't exactly articulate why it's a bad first impression. And Hiten, I get it. I was just as pissed at Fran when I first watched Ponder's video. Hell, I'll admit I made a rude, unwarranted comment about Fran on Spoctor's video myself, in which I then deleted because I wasn't proud of it whatsoever. But if you're doing the equivalent of something I thought was a good idea for 10 seconds, then don't think I won't treat you the same way I did myself. Disappointment. Let me put you in the eyes of Fran for a second. You conduct yourself like a schoolyard bully, call her every name in the book, get a bunch of information wrong, restated the bare-bones discretions she committed as if she didn't know what she did, which was not the problem with her apology video, instead was that she didn't understand the scope and impact of her actions, and then at the end, you have the gall to demand another apology from her, even after Fran expressed that she only deleted her apology video because she felt like people would never be satisfied. Did you really think this video was gonna help matters? Yes, Hiten. Congratulations. You hurled a bunch of insults at Fran. Proud of you, girl. I know you may not be listening to this right now. I know this whole debacle has been hard for you. I understand and wouldn't mind if you refuse to watch this video until your mental state has improved. But you're better than this. Do better next time. Gwus, to finally close your chapter, grow up. Both of you, watch/rewatch Ponder's videos and then reevaluate the qualities of your own. Fran, I'm glad you patched things up with the person you hurt. Junkie, I think it would have been better if you stayed out of this madness. MTR, you don't need to be so hard on yourself, and I'm sorry if I perhaps made you feel otherwise. And Spoctor, live long and prosper. I'm done. Actually, hold on a second. Now I'm done.